My name is Lauren. That day was a quiet Saturday afternoon in a peaceful neighborhood in Charleston, South Carolina. The sun no longer harsh, a light breeze brushing through rows of tall pine trees, and string lights lining the stone walkway leading up to my mother's estate. I stepped out of my old Toyota Corolla, the one that had stuck with me for 8 years, surrounded by rows of luxury SUVs and expensive sports cars. I wore a simple black dress, no lace, no label, with low heels I usually wore for company meetings. Holding a carefully wrapped gift box, I stood at the front gate, trying to remain composed as lively jazz music and bursts of laughter echoed from inside the house. My older brother Brandon's 38th birthday party was being thrown like a major event, big enough to have a guest coordinator standing at the door with a printed list in hand. As I approached, a young man in a light gray suit smiled politely and asked, "What's your name, ma'am?" "Lauren Mitchell, Brandon's sister." He scanned the list for quite a while, then furrowed his brow slightly. Yes, you're listed under Mitchell Family Guest. Seems like no individual name. Would you like me to handwrite a name tag?" I forced a smile. "No need, anything's fine." I pinned the plastic tag with the words Guest Mitchell Family over my chest, right above my heart. The stiff plastic bent the thin fabric of my dress, a feeling not unlike being grouped with strangers in my own family's home. Inside, the house was decorated like an outdoor wedding. Sparkling chandeliers, tables draped in white linens, blue roses arranged in symmetrical elegance. The scent of cedar-smoked barbecue wafted from the open kitchen, mixing with the clinking of glassware and the hum of live music. I walked through the lively crowd, not a single head turned in my direction, not even the aunts and uncles I once helped with their business loan paperwork 2 years ago. They only glanced, then looked away. I found table number 14, where the name card Lauren Guest sat awkwardly between crooked silverware and a poorly folded napkin, slumped as if no one cared. My table was tucked behind a large pillar right next to the kitchen door, where servers rushed in and out, occasionally dropping trays with a loud clang. I sat down and took a deep breath. From where I was, I couldn't see the main stage or the head table, but I could hear everything: bright laughter, enthusiastic toasts, and most notably, my mother Evelyn's voice echoing on repeat. "That's Brandon, my eldest. Just got promoted to regional VP. So proud. So well-deserved." Each sentence had the same rhythm, as if she were speaking for a documentary crew. I sipped water slowly, keeping my composure. This party wasn't meant for me. I knew that the moment I didn't get a formal invitation, just a short message in the family group chat. "Brandon's having a party, come by if you're free." I wasn't sad, just felt a thin layer of cold settling on my shoulders. No one came over to ask how I was doing, how work was going, or even a simple, "How have you been?" Those who once borrowed money from me now avoided eye contact like I had never existed. The stage lights dimmed suddenly, and the microphone let out a faint screech before a familiar voice came through. "And now let's welcome someone very special to our family, Lauren Mitchell." I froze. No one had mentioned any speeches. No one told me to prepare anything. All eyes began to turn toward me, curious, expectant, and somewhere in there, calculating. I stood up and quietly walked toward the stage, hand clutching the gift box that now trembled slightly. My heart pounded, not from nerves, but from a sinking intuition. I was about to be pulled into a performance I had never agreed to star in. I walked up to the stage, the sound of my heels echoing softly against the faded wooden floor. Under the cold, white spotlight, everything blurred except for the hundreds of eyes locked on me. At the head table, my mother, Evelyn, stood up, beaming as if she had just witnessed something miraculous. Brandon sat beside her, clutching his wine glass tightly, eyes fixed on it rather than on me. Next to him was his new wife, the blonde named Claire, the same one who had, accidentally, sent me a wedding invite with the name, to Lorraine. I swallowed hard and adjusted the microphone slightly. "Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren, Brandon's younger sister." A few polite claps scattered across the room. I took a deep breath, about to say a simple congratulatory note when my mother spoke first, her voice sweet but distant, like a salesperson advertising a high-end product. Did you all know Lauren's been doing quite well lately? She has this cute condo in Fort Worth, close to downtown, a pool, rooftop deck. Just got appraised at about 450,000, right, honey? I froze, my heart pounded in my chest as she smiled warmly and turned to the crowd. I just thought, wouldn't it be lovely if Lauren gifted that condo to Brandon and Claire? A belated wedding present. They've been looking for a stable place to start their life. Nervous chuckles rose from a few tables nearby. I looked around. A few guests raised their brows, others leaned in, intrigued, like they were about to witness a surprise car giveaway on a morning talk show. I blinked slowly. Sorry, what did you say, Mom? That condo. You barely use it, you're always traveling for work. It's got 2 bedrooms, a big balcony. Brandon and Claire could really use a peaceful place to settle in. Her tone made it sound like this was the most logical thing in the world. I felt the cold blast from the ceiling vent hit the back of my neck. That's when I knew. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a maneuver. Public, polished, and cruel. I gave a faint smile. So what you mean is, I should gift them my condo? Brandon finally looked up, his face unreadable. It would really help us out, you know. I'm also juggling funding for a new investment. Claire chimed in. And we promise we'll treat it like it's our own home. Not a single one of them asked whether I agreed. I tightened my grip on the small note card in my hand. A few lines of congratulations I had prepared. My voice wasn't loud, but it rang clear. I don't agree to this. That condo is mine. I'm not giving it to anyone. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Somewhere, a glass clinked against the floor. My mother's smile didn't waver. It was too practiced, too rehearsed. Sweetheart, no need to be so dramatic. It's just an act of love. Families help each other when needed. I glanced down at the tables. A few people avoided eye contact. Others watched intently, cataloging every detail, as if witnessing the pivotal scene in some social drama. I've helped many times already, but this isn't a request. It's a grab, Mom. Evelyn's eyes hardened, though her lips remained upturned. Lauren, don't ruin the mood for everyone. It's a small thing. You don't need to hold on so tightly. I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman who once taught me how to fold napkins into swans or slipped "you did great" notes into my lunchbox in elementary school. The woman standing before me now was a seasoned actress, playing the benevolent mother while quietly casting me as the selfish, ungrateful one. I set the microphone gently on the table, not out of weakness, but because I refused to be dragged into a performance I never agreed to star in. I stepped off the stage, each step echoing through the mansion, packed with guests, now wrapped in silence. No applause, no questions of concern. Every stare followed me like hidden blades beneath the chandelier light. All I wanted was to leave, to escape the stifling air thick with forced politeness and the scent of artificial roses. But as I neared the dessert table, I saw him, Dennis, my father, standing with one hand on the table next to an already opened champagne bottle. His eyes weren't disappointed. They burned with fury and humiliation, as if I had just ruined his entire reputation in front of his investor circle. Behind him, my mother Evelyn stood silently, adjusting her wine glass. Her lips were tight, whispering something under her breath. I didn't hear it, and I didn't need to. Her expression couldn't hide the disgust. I walked past them. I'd had no intention of stopping. But then he spoke. His voice, low, stretched tight like piano wire. Embarrass this family in front of everyone? I didn't turn around, just answered without looking. No, I refuse to be your puppet. I guess that's unfamiliar to you. And then, without a word of warning, he grabbed the champagne bottle from the table. I barely had time to hear the glass whistle through the air before a heavy force struck my left temple. A rush of dizziness overtook me, like the entire world tilted sideways. My knees buckled, my mind reeled. All the sounds around me became warped, fractured. The pain wasn't the worst part, it was the sound. Dozens of phones being pulled out, cameras raised, voices murmuring. Oh my God, did he just hit her? Someone get this on video. Record it now. No one ran to help me. No hands reached out to steady me. Even Claire, the one who moments ago was gleefully accepting her wedding gift, stood frozen, gripping her cocktail glass like it might break in her hand. I touched the side of my head. My palm came away wet, not with water, but with blood. My blood. It dripped onto the gleaming tile floor in bright red dots, each one louder than words. In contrast to the curated perfection of the party, the crimson stains bloomed like an accusation no one could clean up. My mother didn't move. She just said quietly, loud enough for me to hear, "If you had just cooperated, this wouldn't have happened." I breathed hard, willing myself to stand upright. No crying, no yelling. I had seen them use words to shame people before. But today, they used violence in front of everyone, and everyone just watched. Brandon said nothing. He turned his face away. Claire averted her eyes. An old family friend, Uncle Greg, stood nearby, phone halfway raised, then lowered it again. Someone muttered, "She's overreacting. Maybe it was just an accident." But I knew, and so did he, that wasn't a slip of the hand. I turned and walked toward the door. Each step sent a pulse of pain through my head like fresh blows. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see another pair of indifferent eyes. I passed through the lavender garden in the front yard, where guests had been sipping white wine and gossiping a moment earlier. Now they stood still, silent. I booked a ride on the app with trembling fingers. Blood had already seeped down onto my shoulder. When the car pulled up, the driver stepped out, visibly startled. "Ma'am, were you in an accident?" I shook my head. "Please take me to the nearest hospital." I didn't speak the entire way there. Even the slightest curve in the road made the pain in my skull throb. But the thing that hurt most wasn't physical. It was the realization they weren't just trying to steal from me. They saw me as a threat, something to be silenced at any cost. As I sat in the ER, fluorescent lights glaring down, one thought circled in my mind. If this is how they treat me for simply saying no, what would they do if I actually fought back? 3 days after I left the party with 6 stitches on my forehead and a CT scan in my bag, the phone rang just as I was making coffee in my Fort Worth apartment. My eyes were still bruised and the painkillers left my mind a little hazy. "Hello, Miss Lauren Mitchell. This is Kelly from Willowstone Realty. I'm calling to confirm your apartment showing today at 2 p.m. I almost dropped the mug. "What apartment?" I asked, my voice raspy. "Oh, the unit at 28B Camden Oaks Residences. It was listed by a co-owner, Mr. Dennis Mitchell, with confirmation from an email under your name." I set the mug down, my grip tightening. I never scheduled any showing, and I certainly never authorized anyone to act on my behalf. Who sent the email? There was a rustling of papers before Kelly replied. The email came from Lauren Mitchell Consulting at Gmail. I cut her off. "That is not my email. Cancel the showing. Immediately." Yes, I understand. I'm sorry for the confusion. I'll make a note." I hung up and collapsed into a kitchen chair. My heart wasn't pounding from fear anymore. It was rage. Pure, boiling rage. I dug into my purse, searching for the spare key to my apartment. The small metal keychain I always kept tucked inside the side pocket. It was gone. The pieces began to come together. A week ago, after dinner at my mother's house, I had left my purse in the living room for quite a while. As I was leaving, my dad had said he picked up my wallet, which had accidentally fallen out, and offered to carry my purse to the car. I hadn't thought twice. Until now. They had taken the key. And now they were trying to sell my apartment. The only property under my name, bought with 6 years of nonstop work and every dime I had saved. I opened my laptop, logged into the city's real estate system, entered my apartment's address. Sure enough, there it was, a listing for sale, photos taken from inside. My kitchen, the wooden table I built with my own hands 3 years ago, even the pendant light I'd chosen at a flea market in Austin, all up there like they belonged to someone else. The contact listed Dennis Mitchell, family property representative, who, who, family. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails pressed into my palm. I called the lawyer I'd consulted when I first bought the apartment. I think my parents are trying to steal my home using a stolen key and forged documents. Do you still have the original deed? He asked. Yes, hard copy and scanned. I'm the sole owner, no co-signers. Then you're safe, but I'd advise you to change every single lock immediately and install cameras as soon as possible. That afternoon, I called a locksmith. A middle-aged man with safety glasses inspected the lock and frowned. Looks like someone's been inside recently. These scratches are fresh. They didn't use the key properly, probably a copy. I nodded. Please replace everything. Add a deadbolt, and if possible, I want cameras installed inside. Will do. While I waited, I sat on the floor back against the kitchen cabinets, staring at the familiar space that now felt foreign. This place used to be home, where I ate ramen after night shifts, watched Netflix in sweatpants, a place I thought was safe. But no one is safe when your own parents see you as an asset. That night, I received a text from my mother. Lauren, you're acting like a stranger. We can still resolve this peacefully. Don't make it worse. Peacefully? I didn't respond. Instead, I printed out the sale listing, screenshots of the fake email, and my original deed. I saved everything into a folder titled My Property. This wasn't just about defending anymore. I was ready to strike back. Because if I don't protect myself, no one else will. Not even the ones who call themselves family. The next morning, I was at attorney Dean Rothwell's office. A man in his early 40s, wearing thin-rimmed glasses with a habit of tapping his pen lightly on the desk when deep in thought. His office sat in a vintage red brick building in downtown Fort Worth, just a 10-minute drive from my apartment. Dean went through the stack of documents I brought. The apartment purchase contract, screenshots of the illegal listing, forged email, and photos of the scratched lock. He nodded slowly. You did the right thing by changing the locks immediately. And here, he pointed to the final page of the purchase agreement, confirmation that Lauren Mitchell is the sole legal owner. No co-owner, no co-signer. I sat quietly, hands clasped in my lap. They didn't just try to sell my apartment, Dean. They assaulted me, humiliated me, and now they're forging my signature. I want everything exposed, legally, publicly. Dean didn't ask more. He flipped back through the file, then looked up. Have you ever supported them financially before? I paused, then nodded. In 2011, my parents were about to lose their house in Arlington after falling behind on their mortgage for 3 months. I had just started working at an interior design firm, but I emptied my savings, nearly $40,000, to buy the property under my name as a long-term investment. They couldn't qualify for a refinance, so I signed the deed. Dean raised his eyebrows. And they'd never transferred the title back to you? No, I brought it up once, but my mother said, it's still the family's house. What does it matter whose name is on it? And I foolishly believed her. Dean opened his computer and accessed the county's property records. Within minutes, he turned the screen toward me. The text on the screen was clear. Current owner, Lauren Mitchell, valid deed transfer dated May 3rd, 2011. My chest tightened, not from pain, but from the stark truth staring back at me. They were living in a house that legally belonged to me. For 12 years, I'd paid property taxes, maintenance fees, and never once received a word of thanks. They're trying to take what's yours while owning nothing themselves, Dean said. Would you like to press criminal charges for document forgery and attempted property fraud? I stayed silent for a moment. I don't want to send them to jail, Dean. I just want back what's mine. And I want them out of my life. Dean nodded. Then it's simple. We'll issue a notice to vacate. If they don't respond within 72 hours, we file for civil eviction. No confrontation, no yelling. Everything handled through legal paperwork. I signed the authorization documents. My hand trembled slightly, but the stroke was firm. That afternoon, I drove to the house in Arlington, the same place where I used to nap under the porch during summer breaks in college, where I painted the living room with my mom one Easter. Now it looked like a reenacted movie scene, no longer full of memories, just structure and shadows. I didn't knock. I stayed across the street, watching from inside my car. The beige curtains were still there, the old pickup truck parked at an angle on the uncut grass, and the welcome sign was missing a corner. I didn't feel anything, no regret, no anger, just a space that had already been cleared, ready for something better. 3 days later, Dean texted, "They received the notice, no response. I'll file the petition with the court first thing tomorrow." I didn't reply right away. I just stepped onto the balcony and stood under the afternoon sun. September air still carried summer warmth, but to me it felt as light as a spring morning breeze. Here is the English translation of your latest passage, following your instructions for American naturalization, verbal readability, and unit formatting. I didn't say a word to them, no message, no warning. Everything was filed through the Tarrant County Court's online portal on Monday morning at exactly 8:43 a.m. Dean called me right after the filing was accepted, his voice as calm as ever. "The official eviction order will be forwarded to law enforcement within 3 business days. I've requested priority delivery, directly to the current unlawful occupants." That afternoon, I received a message from an unknown number. It was just a screenshot footage from the security camera mounted at the front door of the Arlington house. The caption beneath it read, "Wednesday, 8 a.m. They have no idea what's coming." The sender was Alex, the only relative from my dad's side who still kept in touch. He was Aunt Helen's son. We went to high school together. Ever since the incident at Brandon's birthday party, Alex had quietly checked in with me, never picking sides, never once telling me to forgive for the sake of family. That Wednesday, at exactly 8:10 a.m., a Fort Worth Police Department patrol car pulled up in front of the Arlington house. A uniformed officer in a dark blue shirt stepped out holding a sealed manila envelope, accompanied by a court officer. The home security camera recorded the entire thing. The door opened after 3 knocks. My father, Dennis, stood there in a gray-striped robe, hair messy, eyes confused. My mother stood behind him, holding a cup of coffee. For a few seconds, neither reacted, as if their brains hadn't yet processed what was happening. Then Dennis read the paper, his lips twitching. My mother snatched the envelope and read it again. Her eyes slowly shifted from shock to rage. The camera didn't record sound, but according to Alex, who had received a copy of the footage through the neighborhood watch, she had screamed. She really did this to her own parents? No one answered. The officer simply pointed to the line on the form. Deadline to vacate, 72 hours from time of receipt. They had no choice. No lawyer, no paperwork to dispute it. I didn't watch the video more than once. I didn't need to. What mattered was knowing that for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being pushed around. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I let the court handle it. Cold, fair, without needing anyone to defend or apologize for me. Later that afternoon, a short clip was posted in the family group chat, the same group I'd been kicked out of after refusing to hand my apartment over to Brandon. The clip showed my parents leaving the Arlington house, throwing bags into the back of a silver SUV, one of its windows patched with duct tape. The person who posted it was Brandon himself. The caption was a string of emojis, face with peeking eye, broken heart, abandoned house. I didn't know what he meant. Pity? Shock? Or just pretending to stay neutral? But no one commented. No one asked why. No one mentioned my name. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment. The kitchen light was still on, the kettle clicking as it finished boiling. Outside the balcony, wind threaded through the high-rises, carrying the sound of distant car horns deep into the room. I made tea, dropped a chamomile bag into the cup, and watched the steam rise like smoke from memories that had finally burned away. 1 week after they left the house in Arlington, the first video began spreading on Facebook. It opened with footage of me on stage at Brandon's birthday party, my voice hoarse with emotion as I said, "I don't agree with this. That apartment is my property." The clip cut right after those words, fading into an image of me walking off stage with a cold expression, eyes staring straight into the crowd. The background music was a slow, somber piano with white text rolling over a black screen. When a child turns away, the deepest pain isn't rejection, but the denial of family itself. The account that posted the video was named The Mitchell Truth. The profile stated, managed by a family member. I got the link from a coworker, someone I'd traveled with for 3 straight years in Dallas. She only included one line, "Lauren, they're rewriting the story." I clicked. In the comments, people were split. Some called for hearing both sides. Others didn't hold back. A grateful daughter. The father who raised her is now out on the street because of his own child. No one would dare live with someone like this. I wasn't surprised. What struck me was how fast they moved. It took me just one evening to figure out why. Brandon. He still had the password to our family Google Photos album, where nearly all our pictures and videos since 2005 were stored. He had access, and he knew exactly which clips to use to tell only half the truth. I didn't respond. I didn't post a rebuttal. I didn't ask anyone to understand. I just opened my laptop and created a new folder titled Actual Timeline. I began uploading every money transfer from my account to my father's, with labels like April 2019, mortgage payment, $3,530, grandma's hospital bill, $3,200, startup support for Claire's nail salon, $8,000. I added screenshots of texts from my mom. "Lauren, can you cover Dad's payment this month? I'll send it back next week." "Sweetie, Brandon needs an emergency loan to keep his business afloat. He's really stressed. Can you help?" I uploaded the deed for the Arlington house from 2011, notarized in my name with signatures from the seller and bank confirmation. Finally, I posted an audio file from a call with Dean, where he confirmed the property was legally mine and the eviction process was handled properly. I didn't write any personal note, just a short caption. "No defense needed, no anger. If anyone truly cares about the truth, here is the full record." I shared the folder in one place only, the Fort Worth Community Legal Forum. A former friend of mine, now a moderator, pinned the post after verifying its legitimacy. 6 hours later, it started spreading. No viral frenzy, no drama, but enough for people to circle back to the original video and start asking, "Wait, what's this about?" Doesn't seem like they told the full story. She paid for everything and just asked to keep what was hers. I didn't read all the comments. I wasn't chasing a win on social media. I just wanted one thing: silence from them. 2 days later, the Mitchell Truth account quietly changed its name. The videos were taken down. No apology, no correction. But I knew they saw it, and they knew I still had more: unpaid loans, secret message threads, even a recorded call from my mother just 3 months ago where she said, "Lauren, if you want peace, don't forget who can make you look like a lunatic in front of the whole family." 1 month after everything ended, I signed the official paperwork to sell the Arlington house to a young couple working in healthcare. They came to view it with bright eyes and a long list of thoughtful questions, but what made me choose them wasn't the offer they made. It was the way they looked at the house, as a place to begin, not something to claim. That afternoon, I cleaned it for the last time. No more of my parents' belongings, no more childhood traces. Family photos had been taken down, the old carpet replaced. But when I opened the drawer under the stairs, I found a small piece of paper left behind. A faded note, ink blurred by time, written in blue pen. "Lauren, you're stronger than you think." Below it was a crooked heart, my grandmother's handwriting. I held the paper without saying a word, folded it gently, slipped it into my coat pocket. Not because it brought back memories, but because it reminded me why I wasn't looking back. That night, I returned to my apartment. A two-bedroom on the sixth floor, corner unit with a view of the Trinity River. Not big, not fancy, but a space I bought, renovated, lived in, and protected myself. No one could touch it without my permission. Not anymore. I made tea. Peppermint, the kind I loved but used to hide because Mom said it was too strong and annoying. I turned on the kitchen light, dropped the tea bag into my mug, and let it cool. I wasn't in a rush anymore. The message came at 12 minutes past 8 p.m. from an unknown number. Lauren, this is Julia, your cousin from Mom's side. I just learned everything. I'm sorry for believing them for so long. You don't have to reply, I just wanted you to know someone still believes you. I sat quietly for a long time. Julia reminded me of childhood birthdays. She once covered for me when I broke a lamp in the living room and thought I'd get scolded. But for the past 5 years, she hadn't checked in once, not even after hearing I got hit at Brandon's party. I didn't feel angry, but I didn't feel comforted either. It was like a breeze passing over still water, enough to notice, but not enough to stir anything inside. I didn't text back, but I kept the message, because sometimes a late apology is worth more than a dozen justifications. A few days later, I started revisiting my work plans. I made more time for personal clients, people who truly valued what I offered. I sent an anonymous donation to the Fort Worth Women's Shelter, the one I had called in panic after the night I was hit. On the donation note, I wrote, "For those who need a door that isn't locked from the inside." I didn't want revenge. I didn't need apologies from my parents, Brandon or Claire, because forgiveness wasn't a gift I owed them, and resentment was no longer something I wanted to carry. Each morning, I woke up, opened the curtains, breathed in deeply, and made coffee with the small machine I bought myself. I kept a cactus by the window. The kind Mom said was bad luck, but I thought it was more like me, quiet, tough, and still alive despite the lack of care. Sometimes I took evening walks across the West 7th Bridge, listening to the water gently lap beneath my feet. People passed me without knowing I was once the traitor in that edited video. And I didn't need them to know. Because peace isn't found in proving someone wrong. It's in no longer needing to. Someone once asked me, "Lauren, have you forgiven them yet?" I just smiled. I don't hold grudges, but I do remember, and that memory helps me never return to the place that once made me forget my worth. I didn't rebuild the old table. I built a new one, just for myself, in a space where my voice isn't a threat, where I don't have to fold napkins into swans just to be invited to sit. And if anyone asks me what I built it with, I'll say, with silence, and a decision not to turn back. My story isn't just about property or the wounds left by family. It's about reclaiming my worth after being treated like a sacrifice. I've learned that sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's strength when you choose to walk away from relationships that only take without ever giving. Forgiveness isn't mandatory, but living true to yourself is. And sometimes real freedom doesn't come from loud declarations. It comes from closing the right door at the right time. What do you think about how Lauren handled everything? If it were you, would you have the courage to do the same? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt and powerful family stories.